Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kisima Podcast. We are Kisima_podcast on Instagram and Kisima Podcast on Twitter. Today is a special day because we have a very exciting guest with us, and we're going to be discussing public sector economics and development.
I'm your host, Joy Mala, and the introducer is Gloria Masheti. Lo ametusahau manze,
Wow.
because tuko na guest, but kama kawaida, it's us.
Yes.
So, yeah, our guest here is Venton. I think he'll just introduce himself and let you guys know who he is and why especially he's interested in public sector economics and why you should too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joy. And Gloria for welcoming me to the podcast. Yeah, I'm Venton Shakil, student at JQuat, and studied public management and development, majoring in public sector economics. And yeah, so I'm here today to discuss about public sector economics. And apart from my education background, I'm a lover of sport. I play basketball, and I also love arts, interior designing, and basically I'm just an outgoing social person who likes fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a great session here.
Karibu sana, karibu. So,
Yeah, let's get right into it. How did we get here? Tumetoka wapi? How was development like at independence for us? Maybe we can start there.
The economy of Kenya was, before independence, it was majorly driven by the whites,
Yeah.
by the colonialists, and the local government, the local people, the leaders didn't have so much to say. They didn't have a voice in the policies that used to happen then. But then post-independence from 1965, under the leadership of Jomo Kenyatta, the country went embarked on a journey of Africanizing of Kenya's economy. And
so tunajua ka sahi we are going through a super capitalist economy.
Yeah.
So hiyo time unaweza describe what was the
What's
ideology
Africanism?
like?
Yeah.
the ideology that was being driven then by people like Tom Mboya and Kibaki to the sessional paper number 10 of 1965 was basically to bring up a socialist kind of economy. Socialism was the ideology. Yeah, that was the African socialism. The people generally was talking about Africa's growth through African socialism. And that's what they were actually talking about in the paper. Yeah.
In what aspects does African socialism differ from Western socialism or Marxism?
Na pia maybe naweza takata tukiita tu African socialism for our viewers who like have no clue mbona tuna discuss economics and what that means because it's probably just a term. Tunaweza sema what were the aspects that defined
The aspects.
what does African socialism entail? So in your time they were trying to make the wealth remain in some areas, and what was the effect of that?
Okay. On Tom Mboya and Kibaki's sessional paper, the paper proposed that the wealth of the nation will be concentrated in areas that it would be most productive in wealth-endowed areas, resource-endowed areas like the White Islands that would perform best in agriculture. So you find that most of the resources were directed to these areas. And then that actually brought about what now the marginalization of other areas. Actually, it is what caught us in the mess of revenue allocation right now, the whole tussle.
Juu kuna areas zenye zilikuwa zinapata majority of the allocation.
And others stay marginalized.
Exactly. So, but it was not actually evil. It was actually very noble. It was a very clean, very innocent idea.
Good intentions.
It had very good intentions.
But the road to hell is...
it would not withstand the test of time.
Yeah.
Because as you can see today, now people are realizing that other areas have been marginalized, and it will be right for us to allocate resources equally to them so that we can see what these other areas can also do.
But I think at the back of their minds, they felt once we reach that point where we are stable, now we can shift our focus to these other areas. I think it wasn't something that was supposed to go on forever and ever. Yeah.
Which has actually been the case.
Yeah, it has actually come true. The prophet, maybe if that was the prophecy or the plan that they had, I think it has really come to pass, because now we see the time is nigh for other regions to actually be included in an equitable division of revenue. Yeah.
So did we ever live up? I'm still on African socialism.
Yeah.
To may avoid.
Najua.
So ilikuwa story ya Harambee ama ilikuwa story ya nini? Did we ever live up to those ideals? Ama ilitupiliwa kando, leaders felt hii haitatusaidia.
I think at some point in our history, we kind of discarded it, like just threw it away and started adopting the Western capitalism slowly by slowly.
Which is funny because the whole intention of even the social paper was for us to come up with something that's ours, that's different from the capitalist and Western ideals.
Yeah, actually, the whole idea was to differentiate. Kibaki and Tom Mboya did not want Kenya's economic growth to be associated with the Western nation or the socialism of the East.
Yeah.
They wanted something that would be only identical to Kenya. It was going to be our system of growth, our own policies that speaks to our needs, so that we can do things in our own way.
Yeah, and
That would
even
have been
from our context, we don't share the same context with the West or the East.
We are in a very different environment with a different context
and a background.
That was the thing that Tom Mboya and Kibaki were trying to speak to.
Okay, so then still in history, then it came to the 1960s. Mali walikuwa na try to develop the cooperatives and societies. So unaweza to take through what was happening around
Was that the
time?
60s or the 70s?
That was the 70s, yeah.
Yeah.
There's another sessional paper, sessional one of 1975.
Yeah.
I think which talked about economic management and growth through cooperative development. It was it meant to bring cooperatives together, actually develop cooperatives, so that especially in the agricultural sector, so that people can come together, produce, then they would have a union, kind of a union to market their goods and also to fight for their rights. Their economic rights. Yeah. It was basically to just to ease up the market for businesses through unions.
For that, I have a question tying to what is happening currently. We've seen the government introduce regulation kwa maziwa, kwa ndengu, kwa potatoes, and right now there's even like charges you can face and even jail term. Ukimesha waru, unaweza Irish potatoes to be specific, you could face jail term without regulation. So like, is this a helpful route towards developing cooperatives and societies? Ama ni doom for us? Like, are there any parallels to be drawn from that period now?
I think it's all in your tone. Even though you're saying it, it spells doom. I don't even think you're asking. You just want to say.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
We're already seeing protests. What am a jam? People are protesting the potato issue. Actually, potatoes are not there in the market right now because there's so many things. And when according to new approaches of economics, there should be deregulation of the market. The market should be able to be deregulated so that people can move in and out of the market. It's a free market. When the government adopts a free market policy, then it will be free. People should be entering and coming out of the market with the goods they want. But the moment now you want to regulate it so much, it becomes tough even for the producers. Now, let's say a farmer in Gishagi, somewhere in Nyeri or somewhere, cannot maybe afford the license to produce that potato. Umemfunga mkono.
Reason I feel so deeply.
They cannot produce. And what impact does that have to the consumers in the cities? Right now, that means the cost of chips, for example, price will go high.
Yeah.
Most things will go, most products will will go, the prices will rise.
Because
the
cities
production
depend
is-
on
the
production
cities,
from...
the cities depend on production from the rural areas.
Yeah.
If we cannot make production easier for the rural areas, that means we are spelling doom on the city dwellers.
It's so annoying that I don't know if annoying is the right word, but our government is full of such paradoxes and ironies.
True.
Like they literally say one thing and do the polar opposite of it.
And they're good agents of PR. By
Yeah.
the time tunaanza kuja what has happened, it's
Isha-
way too far gone.
Yeah.
I'm feeling, reason niko so angry about this scenario, I recently read about the Mwea and how they came to, now like go through Mwea town unapata like it's bustling with energy and life na nini na watu wanaweza uza their own produce, but ati kulikuwa na time yenye regulations ilikuwa such a bottleneck that they were required to give a certain quantity per farmer to the
Cereals
government
board. Yeah.
for juu ya hizo regulations hadi to an extent yenye unahesabiwa mchele yenye wewe na familia yako mtaweza kudishi
Ndo
and then the rest you give out. So like it was so bad, the farmers were very, nisemeaje, walikuwa nateswa na all these regulations, ikafika point yenye they had to actually have some form of an uprising that actually liberated them. So wakona say, because ilifika time waka move where they formed their own cooperative and so that's where they were delivering their rice kwa sababu hata price ilikuwa so different. I can't remember the rates, but ni kama niseme kama unanipea 70 bob as gava, singine wananipea 200 per kilo, something like that. So it was zinaweza kuwa very exploitative to farmers to decide that they have to submit everything to government cooperatives and such like.
It's very unfair.
But from that story, at least we know there's hope. Viva la revolution.
I
We are
think-
not helpless
hiyo
as
ndo
they
kitu
think
bedhe
we are.
tunatwengi kuambia wasi
Yeah.
that if we keep having these conversations tunajikwamua.
Kwa sababu wanafanyanga ikuwe so hard hata to get to them and to overcome those things. Ndo mshinde tu hapo mkidhani it's our fate. So anyway, we can go into... Kibaki has been, I think, the most praised president in terms of economy. He was so forward thinking. So maybe we can discuss his policies and, the context he entered in post-SAPS. This was post-SAPS and the effects that they had.
Yeah.
So we can get in a little bit into that.
Kibaki came in with a very clear roadmap to development. Hakuwa nabatisha. I like saying that he didn't hakuja kubatisha by the way. He came to do it and to do it perfectly. At least to try to do it perfectly. So when he came in, he first tried to reform the treasury and the KRA. He tried to also diversify government income and revenue collection. The first thing actually did, he formed a department in the treasury for debt management. It is this government that formed that department to help Kenya manage its debt, and then also made sure that government directed 30% of its revenue to economic growth, especially in terms of infrastructure and all that, and development projects that we will witness their multiplier years later. Their benefits will come years later, but they were well planned. So I think
Unaweza taja some of hizi tukisema development projects gani?
some of the development projects, I think even Jubilee is trying to achieve them today, like the lab set. That was still in
Under Kibaki.
under Kibaki's government. There's the Thika Highway that we see.
I remember Thika.
The Thika Highway really opened up the economy along the Thika Highway. You've seen so many businesses opening up, so many
residentials
so many
even.
residential areas. You're seeing industries going to Thika. I mean, there's so many things opening up, and that was a good plan. So I think Kibaki, and also he came up with the Vision 2030 flagship project that had a very clear roadmap. Blueprint. Actually, the blueprint to Vision 2030 is what the nation is still riding on until today. It is the foundation of every other development that we are trying to partake as a nation. So I think it's very important that as youths or anybody, any citizen of this country, make sure that they know the content, they're aware of the contents, equip themselves with the contents of the Vision 2030.
So hapa pia tunapea homework kiasi. Like much as we are we are providing this info in this manner.
You should know the social pillars, political pillars, and economic pillars of that vision.
But to be honest, I feel like he really focused on the economic pillars and then akatupilia mbali the social and political
But even the social,
pillars.
we cannot really say alitupilia mbali that exactly, because we can also see some social development. During Kibaki's tenure, we saw free primary education come in. That is both social and economic, because in the long term, if you have a good educational background, you will have skilled labor. You'll have skilled labor coming from school, so you won't have labor deficit like other nations do. And then we also saw gender mainstreaming. We saw that happening. So many women started coming into leadership, into corporate governance. As in that.
But was that accredited to him or just the
Kibaki?
general momentum of the time?
Yeah,
Is it his
because I
policies
think-
that made it easier really for women?
It was not him per se, but it is his
Because I think
government.
it's been imekuwa kitu wanawake
Yeah,
pia
it's
wamekuwa
been-
wakitry kupush for a very long
But
time.
also
Exactly.
with this government allowing that. Unaweza pata serikali yenye haitaki mambo ya kusikia mambo ya wanawake. There's some governments that really doesn't want. Yeah, there's some governments that really don't.
Yeah,
promote
but I
women.
didn't see
They
his
really don't- they don't really
administration
consider it.
coming out
Yeah,
strongly in
championing
support.
for-
Yeah, that's why for me, he didn't suffice socially and politically. I think many people associate his time with so much unrest
Yeah.
and, just a lot of tension.
Yeah.
Especially post 2007 to 8
because-
post-election, yeah.
Because there's something also people, especially venye unasema tu politically, Kibaki's time watu walidhani hii ndio time tumetoka from dictatorship, because I think it's good to remember hiyo time ndo tulikuwa tumetoka from era ya Moi, watu wakaimba yote yawezekana
psych,
bila Moi.
Moi.
There was so much, like we had so much hope
Yeah.
with him politically, and then it was also I think one of the times where most regions in Kenya zilikuwa united, because if you remember the coalition that brought him in had sijui Raila, ilikuwa na Najib Balala, ilikuwa na Charity Ngilu, atakuwa amezaliwa.
Kalonzo Musyoka.
Kalonzo Musyoka, ilikuwa na William
The
Ruto.
big wigs that you know
William
today.
Ruto, by the way, guys, if you note these names, ni the same people.
Almost the big wigs, all the big wigs that you know today were in the
Were
last
there
camp.
together
Were
for
in the last
once.
camp for one
Yeah.
person. It
Yeah.
was like a compromise.
Bas,
then.
because mi nakumbuka hiyo time ya elections, it found me in shags, and for once like tulikuwa ushago na people are listening to Raila ashain Kibaki, and guys are so excited, like I've never seen Luos that excited about a Kikuyu guy, but hiyo time ilikuwa tu like there seemed to be some semblance of unity coming up, and tulikuwa tunafeel ni kama sawa tumetoka from an oppressive regime and we are moving on to something different.
Knack was the face of liberty by then.
Yeah, it was really the face of revolution. I think ilikuwa kitu great yenye Wakenya wote waliget ku feel some hope, and then
The
alafu Kibaki
revolution was
anakam.
hijacked.
It was hijacked by the same people.
Exactly.
Government
That
corruption.
that was a watershed moment, as in
Yeah.
it was like a point in the nation where everybody just comes to this realization that we are now free and we need to move forward. So it's like, okay, we were unified by our sorrows.
Yes.
That
Pain points.
The pain
Trauma.
points, the trauma that we went through during Moi's tenure, and now we are free, and we're having this one person who has been forwarded by all these other big names, which I call the compromise. I call it the compromise because all these other if Raila had reigned, actually it would have been a very serious context, a reign for presidency. But we stood up and said Kibaki Tosha. We had so many people who were interested in that, but they all said Kibaki Tosha. They all compromised for this one person who they believed in. And I want to believe that they did not compromise for nothing. They knew that there was some substance that they saw in Kibaki that was going to take this nation forward to better days.
I wouldn't
kinda
paint
think,
them
hata
benevolently
mimi.
like that. I
Hata
think
mimi.
they knew there was something in it for them.
Yeah.
Because they knew if Uhuru, because that time Uhuru was the one who was fronted. They
Yeah,
knew if
by
he's the one
Moi,
who
for
came
Kanu.
forward, regime ingesonga mbele. So akona akona sound economic policies, atapea watu hope, which by the way brings me to the point of why politicians today keep peddling that economic dream, and that is their, for their foundation for campaigning for.
Yeah, but naweza taka tu kumalizia wase much as tunasema like Kibaki alisaidia Kenya economically, we are not
ati.
trying to say that he was the best president
Yeah,
and he was
this is
perfect.
not a Kibaki
We are just
Stan
like
podcast.
looking bas. tunaangalia strides zenye tumemake economically from tutoke under whatever like since independence but yeah,
Clearly.
since independence
Not
we are
yet
trying
Uhuru.
to form like a roadmap to where we are, and so that
Yeah,
leads
so
us
where
here.
we are today is politicians selling us hopes of economic reforms because they know our pockets are as empty as, So, so yeah, we can speak on that situation a little bit, why politicians are, of course, they're opportunistic, but also what are some of the other motivations behind that kind of.
It is a very tactical approach. Any political analyst will tell you. The politician always know where to hit. They always know the weak points. If it's a building, they know if I have to bring this building down, I have to hit it from a certain angle. And that's what a politician is. A politician is a very strategic person, a very manipulative person. And understanding the economic struggles of this nation, they know that the only thing that brings Kenyans together is usually suffering.
Yeah.
Usually, most of the
That's why
time,
imebaki consistent.
so you have to make sure that suffering is consistent. So now, if you hear any contender for the 2022 presidential election, they all dwelling on the economic foundation of this nation. Well, I want to change the economy. If you listen to Madividi, Musalia Mudavadi is talking about the same thing. Every time Musalia Mudavadi speaks on TV, he's talking about the economy. The nation is boring, as if that's not new. I mean,
If that's new.
That's new. I mean,
Yeah.
but we know it's something that's out there.
Yeah.
If you listen to Ruto, he's saying the same thing. He's talking about bottom-up approach. So the reason they're doing this is because they know we are ailing economically, and even though they might not achieve everything that they're saying, they know this is what the Kenyan citizens want to listen to.
They're selling the dream.
The hustler, that's what the hustler wants to listen to. That's what the poor Kenyans want to listen to. But really, I think it goes beyond just saying it. What are the strategic policies that you want to come about? When you talk about the loan, debt, the loan burden, what are we going to do about it?
Episode ni trigger. I feel so mad.
If you talk about taxation, what are the policies
And you're laughing.
of taxation?
It's because najikuta tu nikisema hold your.
Like for example,
Kwa sababu even when you just mention hustler, like I say
Narratives zenye
relate
wamemake,
nazo. Kwa sababu anajua majority of Kenyans don't have jobs. So what you guys have resorted to be is to be a hustler in one way or another. And then just some other billionaire comes and calls themselves a hustler, ndio umvotie. So ni poa nisemeaje, much as tuna decode economics sana, ni poa kuangalia venye zina align na politics and then with how it affects how you think.
Yeah, I think we can. Okay, sorry.
So if we are going to talk about, if somebody like Musalia Mudavadi or Ruto wants to talk about the loan, the debt burden, the loan burden, or the taxation, let's say for taxation, for example, we want to hear very clear policies. For example, what are you going to do to make sure government diversifies?
They'll tell you something like job creation.
No, job creation
Like
is that's a blanket
Wanasemanga
statement.
hivyo, we'll create
Because
50,000
they
jobs.
know
What does that
no one
exactly
will come
mean?
back to ask you how are you creating, what's
going to do
this
it?
job
So
creation?
if I was somebody like Mudavadi and I want to talk about taxation, for example, what are the ways to make sure we ease the tax burden for the Kenyan citizen? What are the ways that we can diversify government revenue allocation? What we are going to do, for example, is to reduce the tax rate, for example, from 12%, from 16% to something like 12%. By so doing, we are going to incentivize citizens to invest. We are going to incentivize them to spend, to consume, and so by doing so, we are going to have so many products to tax. We are going to have so many services to tax, so many activities going on in the economy to tax. If you have movement within the economy, you have so many things to tax, and by taxing those services, products, and any other thing that's happening in the economy, government will acquire more. I mean, there'll be more collection of revenue by so doing. But if you say, we are going to reduce taxes, if you reduce taxes, I mean, how is the government going to
Exactly.
How are you going to develop?
They're just going to tell you
the
some
government
vague
does not really know what to do when it comes to diversification.
They know they don't want to do it. Yeah, because they know we don't
hata hiyo
know.
story ya Mudavadi kuongea about tax ni hiyo kitu tulikuwa tunasema about pain points. because right now
That's the pain
taxation
point.
iko over the roof. It's paining everyone is complaining about tax. So mtu akikam na theory yake kusema so me now I'll reduce tax. It's just to niseme aje ni kuwakatia ni
And
kutukatia.
also, if even the loans that they're talking about, the loan issue. If you say we are going to reduce loan, we know that Kenya's our GDP, 65% of our GDP is loan. We are doing deficit financing right now. But what's going to get out of that hole? What can we do? I want to hear somebody like Ruto saying, we want something like we should maybe avoid borrowing too much locally, and also by to just try to a level play to find a middle ground, for example, between multilateral borrowing and bilateral borrowing. Because if you borrow so much locally, what you're going to do is you're going to bring what is called the crowding off effect. The crowding off effect is going to happen when government borrows from so much from the local banks that we don't have. The private citizens will lack what to borrow.
Yeah.
There will be no reserve to borrow from. Then that will reduce the rate of investments.
Yeah.
If you borrow so much bilateral from other nations, what's going to happen? We are going to have Mambona exchange rates are going to be in that. Because remember, you're going to pay that loan using foreign currency, foreign exchange.
Yeah.
That means that the shilling is going to perform weak against the euro or the dollar, depending on the country that you're
Alafu
going to.
pia loan itakuwa adjusted
Itakuwa
to your
adjusted.
rate
But
for
exactly
whatever
during
number
that
of
time.
yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're trying to play safe. You're not trying to borrow so much locally and also trying to borrow so much. Borrowing is not bad,
Yeah.
but what you're going to do with this borrowing is what matters.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
it comes to governments like Jubilee government, where plunder has been the song of the day, corruption, wastage, where is that money all going to? To the drains. You're not seeing anything that's coming off it.
I think we can sit here and complain all day about all our pain points, but I think at this point, as we wind up, we should talk about what we can do. You know, where do we stand? What's the much that we can do? And, you know, we are having an episode where we're discussing the budget process and how we can be part of that. But apart from, you know, getting knowledge and knowing these things, what are the other things we can do as citizens? Okay, as young people, what can we do?
As young people.
Mi naweza anza na kusema that well, much as young people have a role to play, I think pia the general populace, you guys have parents wenye probably wako middle class, upper middle class ni nini, mnafaa kwanza inform about hizi vitu that you see guys are comfortable with having private alternatives for nearly everything. Like you give off 30% of your tax. Ini kusema kama una earn 100k, probably 30,000 umepeana mahali, and then you don't keep tabs of what happens with that money. You are okay with going to pay for alternative services. So you pay for alternative hospital, so menda, I don't, should I mention?
No.
But you guys know the private hospitals. Na hizo ndo zenye they made it big during COVID, right? So the people in your lives who pay tax and you also do through purchases and whatnot, hamutrai keep tabs of ido mnatoanga inafanya nini. So like public services, ikuwe ni hosi, ikuwe ni shule, ikuwe ni barabara, they're all dilapidated and you just don't keep tabs of what happens with your money and you're comfortable with that. I think that should be an aspect to change. That is very doable. Yeah, because kuna so many governments where people, like all class levels, they use public means of transport, of education. So there shouldn't be a reason why sisi hatuwezi tumia, yet we pay for them. Because this also incentivizes them to keep looting, and they loot to provide the private alternatives. You go look at the heads of those private institutions, they're the same people in government. Because hizi ni vitu zenye tunaweza curtail from the start. Kwa sababu mtu ata create a competitor product, teme Gloria ako in government, alafu ajenge hospitali, na ni Minister of Health, for example. Do you think at any point she'll try to make sure KNH has enough ICU beds?
No.
Hawezi, kwa sababu it's a competing business. So it's upon us as citizens pia kuamua, we have to keep these checks and balances and really try to figure out expenditure, government expenditure, which, as she duly mentioned, on our next episode, we'll really touch on the budget and look at the aspects where we can get involved. But pia in economics, it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically what Jay is saying, talk about the public participation in budget making process, everything. Just make sure we are accountable, and also let's play our role as public economic roles.
Yeah.
If you have an industry or a company, for example, don't evade the taxes. File your taxes, pay your taxes, so that the economy can move on. You have to do that. That is your role. It's in the constitution. You also have to make sure you're doing your economic role as a citizen. Don't evade taxes. There's a way you can pay it, because that's the only way you can also try to grow your economy, and also try to look for information, economic information that will make you make wiser economic choices.
Changu atuambia anacheka nini? Why are you laughing at the mention that we should pay taxes?
Because of course taxes is a pain point. People are like, why should I pay? Na tunajua penye zinaenda, kenye kinaenda kuhappen. Yani it just sounds so preachy.
But sasa issue yangu ni tusha give up your power. Tusha decide we won't keep track of where our money goes, but definitely bado utalipa tax. So like inaka zero sum game. So we kind of have to take back the power in some aspect. So unaanza na kulipa tax, you know.
You have to begin there, pay your taxes, and then government also should just monitor what the taxes are doing, and also to also bring in, to make the economic environment conducive for investments, like what Rwanda does. Rwanda has this idea of innovation incubation centers, where you bring your idea, it is incubated, then they finance you, maybe they'll give you a land somewhere. What's happening in Kenya? Nairobi County is providing a very vast land, and what government is doing on that land is building affordable housing for people at the tune of $62 billion. That's the GDP of Uganda. Spending $26 billion on affordable housing. To whom is it affordable? To whom is it affordable? It is affordable to the middle class Kenyans. But look at that, what percentage of the Kenyan populace is at the middle class level? So you have
less than 30.
You have less than 30%. So you have to look at investment, public investment that speaks to your context. You cannot go after affordable housing when people cannot put food on the table. You cannot go after affordable housing. People don't have jobs to buy those houses.
There are not enough classrooms.
There are not enough classrooms. So as government invests, there's a serious, I think we should even, the Public Investment Committee, I wonder what they're doing in Parliament. Because I think it should be advising the government on the proper investment direction to take. If I was the president, there's no way I'm going to prioritize investing on a 62 billion project that's only going to benefit 25% of the country.
Seriously. I'd say less than 25%. They know what they're doing.
We're talking about the Big Four agenda. Genuinely, if I'm speaking to the president right now, what should have happened? We should have prioritized on things that were achievable.
Yeah.
Food security and universal health care. Those will have been the only things that he could have achieved. Actually, those are the only things that he can achieve.
I feel like manufacturing is also noble.
It's also noble, but look at the taxation. Look at how many companies fled Kenya since 2014.
During COVID.
When Jubilee took over power. So many companies left due to what? High taxation. They were going to other countries that have low tax rates that can enable them to do business. When you're taxing investors so heavily, nobody's going to come to invest in your country.
Say export business is suffering.
Jobs. The export business is going down. Right now, we are only importing, let's say, 65%. We are importing so much than we are exporting. We are only exporting 35%. What is that? So we should look at how to create employment, how to put money in people's pockets, and by so doing is being wise on your public investments.
In short, tutoe kila mtu mwenye ako hapo. Because Konza, what is Konza City?
What is Konza doing? Konza is one of the biggest beneficiaries in the latest budget.
I can't believe.
Na
sahi ni shamba.
Konza project is one
It's not
of the
just a shamba, it's a desert. Still a
beneficiary.
desert after so many years.
If Nairobi city itself cannot even provide quality life, people are struggling. There's jam, there's mambo na sewage, water, kuna maji, and then you're struggling with the smart cities. At the tune of 633 million. That's one of the, seriously, you have a budget.
Inafeel ni kama kutupanga do. Like tunatupanga do sana.
Mina niuma by there's no way you're going to throw money at Konza, yet Nairobi doesn't even have the facilities, the hospital that it needs. The sewage, mambo bado ukinda kwa Mikuru, all these estates, sewage is just flowing around, you know. And now you want to build a smart city for who? For the expatriates to come and live in it? Really?
Clearly, economy is a very emotive issue.
Na tumejam.
Kabisa.
But we
have to wrap it up.
We have to wrap it up. I thought we've talked about the way forward in
The-
paying taxes
in
and
paying-
getting knowledge. I thought that's what we were doing this entire time.
Ni vile tena tumerudi tukajam zaidi.
Kenya has the ability to be Kenya's Africa's success story. We have a youthful population. We have a very innovative population. We have a very diverse sector, private sector that's doing a lot of amazing work. Why can't we bring
And
up policies
innovative youth
using the
and
private partnerships to build, to do amazing things like what Rwanda is doing. We have the potential to do that. We have advanced resources. We have so many things to offer, but we are
So many graduates.
Where are they
creative
going?
people.
We have so many creative people making wonderful apps, wonderful technologies. Why can't we incubate these technologies so that they can work for our economy to produce more? I mean, that's where we should focus, I think.
If there's anyone in government listening to this, ndio tumesema shida zetu. So
Wanajua shida zetu.
Maybe
Me, I
they
don't
want
think
to
they
know.
don't know. We just need to, honestly, it's a big issue.
So
We
we've
need to
spoken a lot. We'll give like a recap of the episode. Tumesema tu, in short, tumesema wase, let's be,
Stay woke.
in short, by the way, that's the shortest way we can say it.
Yes.
Stay woke.
Stay woke and keep your government accountable.
Yes.
As always, this is Kisima_podcast on Instagram and at Kisima Podcast on Twitter. And on the next episode, as we said, we'll talk about budgets. We'll have budget talks. So stay tuned and mtu follow mtoe
us.
comments nini. Najua in time we'll save this country.
Follow on Twitter at Shakil Venton.
Okay.
Yeah.
For more information.
Yes.
Government can email me too.
Wase, that's
Bye.
been our time.
Bye.